In 1985, Pluckley was regarded as being England's most haunted village on account of the Guinness Book of Records. Now, 12 official ghosts is quite a number of people. And what we're hoping to do today is to be able to go through each of these ghostly legends and end the day somewhere interesting for a ghostly vigil. My first port of call today is St Nicholas Church in Pluckley. This beautiful medieval building, largely reconstructed in part during the 1950s, hosts two but not one ghost of the same person. Well, at least it appears to be the same person. There are two Lady Dearings that haunt this church. One is called the White Lady Dearing and the other is called the Red Lady Dearing. The first Lady Dearing, the Red Lady Dearing, was said to have died in the 1100s and was placed inside 7 lead coffins, upon which the final coffin was made of oak. And all coffins were then placed directly with her body into the family crypt inside the church. And the reason she is called the Red Lady is because that when she died, she was buried with a solitary red rose. Why the need for 7 lead coffins? Even to this day, nobody has any answers. But one thing is for certain. She has been seen inside this church and also in the church grounds itself. And apparently she's looking for her unborn child. There's always a legacy attached to many of the hauntings, and that apparently is in the case of this particular lady. But then we come on to the White Lady Dearing. This Lady Dearing was married obviously to the local baron, and when she died, he was so distraught at the loss of his wife that he placed her inside 3 lead coffins and then into an oak coffin and was buried inside the crypt. I think we're looking at one of the same ghosts here. I think that reference is made to 2 separate incidents, but in fact we're actually talking through legend about one particular individual. There has certainly not been any recent accounts of either lady being seen inside the church or in the grounds, but I'm fairly sure that with every rumour and with every story, there is an element of truth attached to it. So who knows what might occur in this wonderful building. But what isn't printed in any of the guides that you will see about St Nicholas Church and its alleged hauntings is the fact that the church is also haunted by the spirit of a little dog. And the story I was told today was that some years ago a group of people asked the local vicar if they could be locked inside the church for the night. And whilst they were in there, they encountered this little white dog, which they didn't think was ghostly at all. In fact, they remarked upon the ghost the following day, but said they never actually saw anything. And of course, the real ghost that was actually present was the dog, and they had obviously not appreciated that fact. Again, it's another story. It was told to me directly, not by a witness, but by somebody who heard the story through another person. How much truth can be attached to it? I honestly don't know. But again, this is another building which is worthy of further investigation. I've just seen something. Where that crucifix is in there, I've just seen a figure. I've just seen someone just rise up, then rise down again. Just here, let me show you. Where I'm standing in here, I actually saw a figure of a man rise from the back of this, behind this board, then excuse me, I'm lost for words, saw a figure rise from the back of this board and then lower itself directly back down again. There was a figure, a ghost of a person, and I actually saw it here inside this small, which I presume is one of the prayer rooms. I can't tell you what he was wearing because it was just a black shape of a man, and it rose from the back and lowered itself down again in broad daylight inside St Nicholas Church in the village of Pluckley. We're now at the Black Horse pub in Pluckley, and I've got an appointment now to speak to the landlady, Sarah, who's got one or two interesting tales of the paranormal to share, and particularly so about the pub.
My name's Sarah. I'm the landlady of the Black Horse. I've been here for almost 3 years now. Grew up in the village and used to go to the primary school opposite. And somehow I've winded up back around in a full circle here again. So.
And you're living in a reputedly haunted village.
Yes, so it seems.
And prior to taking over here, have you had many experiences of ghosts in Pluckley, or more of the legends perhaps?
No, I have had strange experiences. When I was very young, about 14, 15, I was walking back from a friend's house down Lambden Road onto Station Road, and it was probably about 2 in the morning, and I was completely on my own, and I swear it was reasonably misty. I just heard this horse, it sounded like 2 horses galloping quite fast down the road, and I just thought, oh, that's strange, you know, maybe sort of the travellers are out and about on their horse and carts, because they've got some beautiful ones in the village that they go round on. And I wasn't too scared at first, but then as the sound seemed to pass us by and the noise reverberated, you could feel the echo of it through your body. There was nothing there, I didn't see a thing, but the sound come like ridiculously close and then went away down Station Road.
So you could feel it, but you couldn't see it.
Completely, and even talking about it, you can see a little goosebumpy.
And that's the ghost of the, is it the horse's carriage? Or
the coach and horses,
coach and
yeah.
horses.
And I'd never ever experienced, and I knew nothing of that at the time because my parents never really wanted me to be encouraged to know about all this when I was young, because I'd never get to sleep at night. But it was just finishing off from a friend's house, you know, we'd had a sort of movie night, and I was wandering back, nearly 15 years old, so I was completely naive to the history and whatnot, and that happened.
And were you hooked on the paranormal from that moment
No,
onwards?
I was terrified, to be honest. I was quite terrified, yeah.
So, you've been at this pub now for
nearly 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
And what experiences have you had here then?
Predominantly in this area, when I'm hoovering of a morning or late at night, I've noticed it feels like a sharp tug on my back pocket of my jeans. I'll look round and there's nothing there. The other thing we have is when we're sat at a chair, again, the tap on the shoulder. We found outside our daughter's room. Her name is Cara. But no one, you know, it's not something we kind of shout about or anything. But when we first moved in, out of nowhere, this carved wooden C shape appeared outside her bedroom door.
Wow. And
I assumed Paul had got it on one of his trips around or whatever and put it outside her room for when she got back. And he assumed I'd got it. And it was only when the dog got a hold of it and started chewing it up, because it was on the floor, I got upset and said, oh, what a shame, you know, the dog's chewed this beautiful C you got up for her bedroom. And he said, I didn't get it, I thought you did. And I said, no, I thought you did. So that was really strange, and it was lovely, you know, so I was I've kept it, but it's just such a shame, you know.
And how old is it?
It doesn't look like it's really old or anything, but it's just a beautiful wooden carved C that, you know, you might, I guess, sort of, I assumed you'd got it to put on her door because of, you know, she's current. But what we have tried to do, because it was, when we were here at first, there was quite a few negative things that were happening. We made a point where everything was happening below the waist, and particularly with the dogs, of putting toys around the pub, like things a child would like for instance the cars here. You'll see I've put heart shapes up around the pub, just things to soften it, and you know that we think she might like, and it seems to have really tempered things, completely levelled it off.
So you've got some balance with
and we acknowledge her, you know, of a morning and of an evening and whatnot. We'll say good morning, good night, and if we happen to not be around and one of the staff are doing a close and we haven't done that sort of thing,
get a reaction,
she gets,
for sure.
Yeah, the girls get messed around with.
What about the poltergeist?
Well, this is all the same.
That's
Elizabeth
is
the one that does it, because we've had the last time a big football match was on, and there was about 22, 25 guys, regulars as well, all sat in the front bar. At one of the round tables there was 3 pints, you know, all with different amounts of drink left in them, but all 3 drinks jumped off the table.
Wow.
And everyone saw this, so we had loads of witnesses. One landed on a chair, another one landed on a lady's handbag that was on a chair, and the other one right under the table. All landed upright, all without a drop being spilled.
Amazing.
No one had jumped up for a goal or anything, it was just passing, going on the TV.
So really, what you have here is someone who's playful.
Very playful.
Rather than vengeful.
Yeah. We do hold paranormal nights, you know, on odd occasions, but it's not something we do regularly. You know, it's a tricky one because of the pubs running 24 hours a day, you know, to have a group in till late.
You've got to cost it out to cover it.
Yeah, because you need the time to clean and then lay up for the following day and get ready for the following day's service and whatnot, and it is difficult if you've constantly.
Well, you're a very charming hostess in the pub, so I can imagine you do quite well. Well, anyway, I can say thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And just turn this off.
I'm actually standing inside the grounds of LV Farm, just outside Pluckley village. Today LV Farm is a hotel complex and has a ghostly reputation for a number of spooks. One in particular, a former dairyman at the farm, a man by the name of Edward Brett, who in the year 1900 calmly gave his wife 15 shillings to each, his children 1 penny each. He then went into the dairy next door and shot himself, and his ghost allegedly still haunts this site. And more recently he has been seen in hotel rooms, in corridors, and apparently on one occasion he was actually seen lying on a bed. Now just how much truth we can attach to that story is anybody's guess. And behind me is a particularly attractive oast house for which Kent is particularly famous. And the whole setting and the whole ambience of LV Farm kind of lends itself towards a good ghost tale. Now, I've spoken to the management here. They're trying to move away from its ghostly legends and reputation into a more mainstream hotel complex. So I've been honoured by being allowed to actually shoot this particular episode from here. I'm at Mortman's Hill in Pluckley, and at various locations here and around the village people have heard the sound of coach and horses. And on one occasion a lady actually saw coach and horses at Pinnock's Crossroads, and I believe the last event involving this particular type of phenomena that's been recorded thus so far was in 1997. And as you recall earlier today when I interviewed Sarah at the pub, she too experienced the sensation of hearing and feeling a coach and horses but not actually seeing anything. So this is a phenomena I would love to see. Well, it's certainly been a very hectic day today. We've been trying to find the sources of the 12 legendary ghosts of Pluckley village. And it is fair to say, on one side of the village there are people here that wish the paranormal element would go away and that it would be remembered for the TV series The Darling Buds of May, which was filmed here in 1995. But unfortunately it won't. I mean, for example, there's one corner called Thrift Corner that's been renamed Fright Corner, where an alleged highwayman, a man by the name, I believe, of Robert Dubois, who used to leap out and frighten people to death, and that apparently is the phantom that people have experienced. And certainly the two Lady Deerings in St Nicholas Church. An interesting story nevertheless, but obviously at odds with each other on the fact that there is so much similarity between the two stories, it can only be one Lady Deering. And then taking things a little bit further afield, we've been over to LV Farm, and although there are a number of other phantoms there, the one that really sticks there is the one of the man Brett who committed suicide, because there have been numerous accounts of people actually witnessing and experiencing him. There's also an account around the village of an unnamed taxi driver who gave a lift to an unnamed person, and of course the fare disappeared from within his cab. I mean, that is perhaps one of the more common fantasy stories that one hears of the paranormal. Whether that is true or not, I don't know. There have been no further accounts of that particular haunting. The Black Horse pub, for sure, I'm quite convinced that pub is very, very active. I certainly felt, shall we say, a certain element of the paranormal whilst I was wandering around inside. We were unfortunately unable to inspect an alleged abandoned room that had been walled up for years and had been recently exposed, but we were able to wander around the rest of the premises. And I certainly do believe that the Black Horse, and indeed the church next door of St Nicholas, is very haunted. The other compelling thing was the fact that I saw a phantom, a black silhouette shape, appear from within one of the chapels inside the church, which we believe is a Deering chapel, appeared very briefly and disappeared. And of course that church is rumoured to be haunted by silhouettes, so I think on that occasion I actually experienced something paranormal. With regard to anything else, it's worth mentioning that in the 1950s a man by the name of Carrington was approached by the BBC, who were looking for material to write into a ghost story for publication. In fact, the 12 ghosts that we know today in the village, and officially recorded in the Guinness Book of Records as such. And he admitted that he had concocted most of them. Unfortunately, we cannot separate the fact from the fiction, and we can only go by our own senses and our own feelings of the paranormal. Now tonight I was hoping to go to Screaming Woods, which I believe is a renamed from Smurden Woods, but it's called Screaming Woods now, and carry out an investigation within the woodland. But there is a big issue here with it for me. If I heard anyone screaming, and we are in June, it's been a very warm and lovely day, it could be any one of a number of kids in there ghost hunting and playing around, and so anything that would be captured on camcorder, unless it was verified, which is mission impossible, could not possibly be accepted as paranormal. So what we've done instead, we've moved a couple of miles out of the village of Pluckley to the village of Little Chart, and we're actually at Little Chart Church. It's nothing more than just a hamlet. Here, sadly, on the 16th of August 1944, a German doodlebug fell out the sky quite randomly, and instead of falling into a ploughed field or cow shed, it instead sadly struck this beautiful church and reduced it to a ruin. And so today, Little Chart Church is nothing more than a fabric of what was once a medieval structure, and it is here that tonight that we are going to wander around the ruins for an hour or so to see whether or not we can actually capture anything paranormal. There is a downside to today. Despite the wonderful weather, as you can hear, it is very, very windy. However, having said all that, at least it's dry and it's warm. And what couldn't be better than that? We've come back to the church at Little Chart, the ruins that we visited a short while ago, and it's just turning dark now, and there is quite a strong breeze, and although we've had a very warm day today, it's starting to turn very, very chilly. So I can imagine that in this investigation there's going to be quite a bit of wind blowing on the camera microphone, unfortunately, but there is always the opportunity of capturing something. Now, if we had gone to Screaming Wood in Pluckley, or Smurden Wood as it used to be called, the sound of the wind in the trees would have rendered any opportunity of capturing anything remotely paranormal irrelevant. So I'm hoping that tonight, at least within the ruins of this beautiful old medieval church, we might be able to share something with you. So with Tim and myself, we'll carry on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have something to share. Sadly, there isn't a great deal of this church left, but we will see. On the camcorder it might appear that it's still quite light, but it's actually getting quite dark now. Where I'm standing, oh, it's very, very cold.
We come here in love, light and peace. We mean you no harm or disrespect, but we just wish to make friendly and peaceful contact with you. If you could give us a sign, please, of your presence. This wind is stiffening up now and it's making it feel very, very cold, so it's just like being on a winter shoot, except I don't have sufficient underclothing to keep me warm, but that's one of the hazards of being a paranormal investigator and a filmmaker. We're out in the country, it's very noisy here, isn't it? John, every church that's in ruins that I've come to, the chancel window is just always one gaping hole with part of the top missing. Well, yeah, it was a sturdy structure, isn't it? And all destroyed by a V1 V2, wasn't it? Or was it V1? V1 was the doodlebug, yeah, V1. Oh, just see a flash. Just see a flash of light in there. You did? Yeah. In the doorway. Do you not see that?
No, I didn't.
There was a definite flash of light, well, it could be anything. I don't think it was a torch. For those at home watching, it was in this doorway.
What, the rear doorway?
Yeah, the doorway that leads through the tower. There was definitely a flash of white light, and I saw it on cam. There's nobody else walking around here. That's really weird. Can you come forward, please? It wasn't a flashlight or torch. It went into a semi-arc downwards towards the ground.
Well, if there's people there, they would have seen them by now.
Well, if there'd been anyone here, they would have seen us.
Yes.
So nobody's come forward. So I don't know who or what that light was, but it certainly wasn't human. Let's go and have a wander down and have a look. No harm in having a look. It's definitely through this doorway. There's a house there, but that's what I didn't see because you saw where I was standing. That was weird. That was really weird. Okay, we've decided to call it quits for now. We've been here a good 40 minutes, but it's bitingly cold. We're on an elevated hillside position. There's a very strong draft blowing across the fields, and after today, which was gloriously warm but windy, it just feels it's far too cold. But the only thing I can say is that I definitely saw a weird white light which appeared on the other side of the church tower through a doorway. Whether or not that will transpire to be anything on examination is another question. Regarding EVP, well, it will be potluck if we've got an EVP in there tonight because it was so noisy from the wind and from the traffic on the motorways in the far distance. But thank you very much for joining us on our visit over to the village of Pluckley in Kent.